Okay, how's it going, everybody? It's been a while. Card Shark here. Came out with another awesome structure deck for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. The Wave of Light. So the last time I made a video and I was like, hey, you know, it's really neat. You can tribute off your opponent's monsters. Not a lot of stuff they can deal with, things like that. I do want to actually make a correction on that video too. Apparently Eradicator Epidemic Virus is at 1 per deck. So in that deck build, I just swapped out one of the Eradicator viruses with a Crush card. Works fine. But this deck, so there was already a ton of fairy support in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. And what happened was they'd come out with a card here or there, and, you know, a secret rare here, a secret rare there. They were really good cards, but only a few people ran the deck because it's a counter fairy deck, and you basically do stuff when your opponent does stuff. So if they do something, you tell them no, destroy it, negate it, etc., things like that. And you kind of have to have a setup to do it. That being said, the cards that were coming out for it weren't just used for fairy decks. Like, they were good in and of themselves, like Honest or Archlord Christia. Both of those cards were at minimum like $90 when they first hit. I know Honest and Christia both hit 100 or over eventually. I think Christia was 150 at a point. But this structured deck that you can get for $10 has the $90 Christia, $150 or $90 Honest, $150 Christia. It has a lot of the cards that you would run in the deck as well as some new stuff. And we're going to go into that today because, like, I don't know what the meta is. Like, I've never really kept up with the meta except for learn how to counter it and then do what I want anyway, which always worked out fairly well. But we're going to go over just this, because this deck, the cards that are going to be in it, doesn't matter what your opponent's going to do. You're going to tell them no, the cards are going to be destroyed, and, you know, you're going to put a hurting on them. Now, again, as with the last video, this is a budget deck, so it's only using 3 of the starter decks. There's much better cards that you could put in here, like text of this or that. Like, doesn't come with a solemn judgment, it just has a solemn warning. But that being said, there's not much else I would really do with this. So let's just jump into this. So the deck in and of itself, I'm going to go over the deck list first, like what they give you, and tell you my thoughts on them. You'll be able to tell some of it just by looking at my deck list here on Duelingbook.com, which is basically the new dueling network. Really awesome site. It lets you build decks, look at all the cards that are available. It has them sorted by site. It's amazing. But so the first up is, of course, Honest. Level 4 Light Fairy, 1100 attack, 1900 defense. During your main phase, you can return this face-up card from the field to the hand if it happens to be there, which is good because it's a hand trap. And it says, during the damage step, when a light monster you control, so every monster in this deck, battles, this is a quick effect, so either player's turn, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and that monster gains attack equal to the attack of the opponent's monster it's battling until the end of the turn. So now that's until the end of the turn. So if you have something like a Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning, they can attack twice. So you'll run into one monster with and drop your Honest. So say you hit a Blue Eyes, you have a 6,000 attack Blackluster Soldier that can hit again. It's really effective. That's why the card was so expensive. Obviously, every single monster in your deck is light, and it just makes sense to run 3 of them because it's so good. Not to mention the fact that they stack on top of each other. So if that Blackluster Soldier had 2 Honests and he hit that Blue Eyes that has 3,000 attack, he would take his base 3,000. Oh boy. Might have to reload here. He'd take his base 3,000, and then he would add the Blue Eyes 3,000 not once, but twice, putting him at 9,000. So, again, just really good. We're going to go here, load back in. Okay. So, moving on, the next card that we're looking at is Sacred Arch Air Knight Parshath. He's new to this structure deck. He's basically the boss monster. And he says, let me check my chat real quick. Okay. Okay. If you activate a counter trap, which is what most of this, all these traps here, like most of them are counter traps. But if you activate a counter trap card, or if you negate the activation of a spell or trap card or a monster effect, except during the damage step, you can banish 2 other fairy monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard. Special summon this card from the graveyard if it was there when you activated / negated, or hand even if it wasn't there. So like if you're searching mid-chain and you get it into your hand and then something's negated, you can summon him like right then and there, which is really cool. So he's a free 2,800 on the field for just banishing 2 monsters. That'll come back later. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add 1 Parshath card or counter trap from your deck to your hand. You get to pick which counter trap you get to use on your opponent. And like the one counter trap says, when your opponent adds a card from their deck, including drawing, they have to discard it. So like you use him and you get that, and you can immediately use it to make them discard the card they draw for their turn, which is great with our next card, Bountiful Artemis, which says each time a counter trap card is activated, immediately after it resolves, you draw a card. So like you have him on field, you have this guy on the field, you search your drastic drop off, and then all of a sudden they lost a card, you drew a card, and now they have to deal with all their stuff with no extra options because you just got rid of it. Now, Bountiful Artemis is a little weak, but his stats are actually well-rounded. He's 1,600, 1,700, and again, he's light, so he's not defenseless. You can use Honest on him. It's pretty good bait because they want to get rid of this thing at all costs. He is the best 4-star that will sit on the field pretty much in the deck. There's one other one that we'll get to, but he's like one of the top 2 4-star threats. Because Honest, if you're doing it right, Honest will never see the field at all. Unless like you need to set him for his 1,900 defense, but that's about it. Next we have Power Angel Valkyria. We're starting to hit our 2 ofs, except for this guy, which I'll explain later. Power Angel Valkyria says it's a light fairy, 1,800 attack, 1,050 defense. I always find 50s to be annoying, but it doesn't really matter. If you negate the activation of a spell or trap card or a monster effect, you can add a light fairy monster from your deck to your hand. And you can only use that effect once per turn. So, you use a counter trap, you can search an Honest, or you can search this guy, or your Bountiful Artemis. It's basically a toolbox. So again, not ideal is actually summoning those cards, but if you don't have them, it's good to put it out there. Now the next one might confuse you. A lot of people have this as a throwaway card. This is actually Layered the Liberator. 4-star, 1,400 attack, 1,500 defense. Again, well-rounded, but much worse. Each time a counter trap is activated, immediately after it resolves, add 2 of your banished fairy monsters to your hand. So, like, let's say I'm going to summon this guy, and I banish an Honest and a Bountiful Artemis to do it. I summon him. Then I use my Drastic Drop-Off because I can. And all of a sudden, I have an Honest back in my hand. And I have a Bountiful Artemis back in my hand. And I get my draw for my next turn. A really good card. You don't want to have him, starting off, which is why he's at 2 per deck. But he's all right. Definitely all right. Go in here real quick. Okay. So what else we got? Next, we're moving on to Guiding Ariadne. At first, I thought I only had 2 of this card, but then I realized I had 3, so I just popped it in here. Now, it is a Pendulum monster, which I generally don't use, but the nice thing about the Pendulum monsters is they have 2 separate effects depending on if they're a monster on the field, which you'll use this effect if so, or if they're a Pendulum monster in your backfield spell and trap zones, you'll use this effect instead. You'll never actually Pendulum summon in this deck. So basically what happens is, let's say I grab them and I put them back in my backfield as a Pendulum monster. Pendulum effects. You get both of these effects. You do not pay life points to activate counter trap cards. You do not discard to activate counter trap cards. So cards such as, let's see, Solemn Warning, which is at 1 per deck, says, when a monster summoned, pay 2,000 life points and negate it and blow it up. You don't pay the life points. You get that for free. And then the Rebirth of Parshath, which is also new, which I'll get to, you have to pay 1,000 life points and discard. So you wouldn't have to do either of those. Plus, it would add a Parshath card to your hand. So it's just, that effect is really, really good. Now, as a monster effect, if you actually summon it to the field, which it's got 1,700 attack, it's not that bad. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can reveal 3 counter traps from your deck. Your opponent chooses one for you to add to your hand, and you shuffle the rest back into your deck. So if he dies, you get a counter trap. If he's a backfield, you get counter traps for free. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, moving on to Christia. Now, Christia is at 3 per deck. I thought it was at 2, but I just recently checked the ban list, so I didn't have another Eradicator Epidemic Virus accident. And Christia seems to be at 3. It's really good. Obviously, it was $150 when it came out. And what it does is it's 2,800 attack, 2,300 defense. And it says, if you have exactly 4 fairy monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If summoned this way, target a fairy monster in your graveyard, add that target to your hand. Now, neither player can special summon monsters if this face-up card, or neither player can special summon monsters, period. End of sentence. So, like, you special summon the 28 beater, and then nobody special summons. So they can't synchro, they can't exceed, they can't link summon, they can't fuse, they can't ritual. They can't just special out of deck or graveyard. Amazing card. Now, if it would be sent to the graveyard, it goes to the top of your deck instead. Meaning, the card you just got back, if you can get another card into the graveyard, since your graveyard should be at 3 at that point, you can just resummon it, and boom, there you go. Which is really easy if the card you add back to your hand is Honest, which you just chuck to the grave whenever you fight something. Usually what you do anyway. Another good target for that would obviously be your boss monster that you can just banish to remove, because that's like, you can summon him and then chuck a couple monsters to the grave and then summon Christia, which is very doable. So moving on, we have Minerva, Scholar of the Sky, also new to this the card game with this structure deck. Says each time a counter trap card is activated, immediately after it resolves, this card gains 500 attack. And if it does, and the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, add a counter trap with a different name from your graveyard to your hand. So basically, like, if I activate Dark Bribe and I negate something, and I have Sanctuary in the Skies on the field, I can't get a Dark Bribe out of my deck. But I could get Solemn Warning, I could get, Divine Punishment, I could get Rebirth of Parshath, any of that stuff. So it's a little conditional because the only thing it really gets you is the 500 attack, and you have to have your combo card for it to get you the plus of the extra trap card. So that's why I'm only running 2 of it. And for that exact same reason, I'm also only running 2 of Meltiel, Sage of the Sky. Each time a counter trap card is activated, immediately after it resolves, gain 1,000 life points. And if you do, if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, destroy a card your opponent controls. So they have a couple cards on the field, they try to activate something, you tell them no, which is basically the name of your deck, and then they lose not only the card you negated and blew up, but another card that was already on the field that they probably needed some for something. That covers the monsters that I'm using. Now, there are other monsters, and I will go into those monsters right after I get done with the deck build that I have put together with this, just so you can see what the deck entails. But we're going into traps now. Rebirth of Parshath. New to the game in this structure deck, says when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, reveal a counter trap in your hand. Then discard a card and pay 1,000 life points. Negate the activation, and if you do, shuffle that card into the deck, so it doesn't even go to the graveyard. Then you can special summon 1 Parshath monster from your deck or extra deck. So if you have Avenging Knight Parshath in your extra deck, he hits the field for free. Or what I usually do, because you don't get that in the structure deck, you get your boss monster, Arc Air Knight Parshath, to the field for free. You don't have to banish the 2 cards to do it. You just get them there. Awesome stuff. Check my chat real quick. Okay. Moving on. We have Dark Bribe. This came out, it was like $30 because you had to buy a video game to get it. But again, really good. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card, your opponent draws a card, negate the spell or trap activation, and if you do, destroy it. So this one's a little odd because in theory it's a -1 because your opponent gets to draw a card, and then you lose a card and they lose a card. But depending on what you have on the field, Bountiful Artemis, you might be able to, make it break even, or stop a really clutch play like a Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Raigeki, anything that's really powerful that you just need stopped, gone. Moving from there, we have Divine Punishment. Now this seems like it fits really well, which it does, but it's not new. It actually came out previous to this. And it says, when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated while the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So pretty simple conditions-ish, but I only have the 3 Sanctuary in the Sky cards in the deck. They're not even Sanctuaries, they just count as it. So it's conditional, and it's too conditional to run at 3, or else I would be. Moving on to Miraculous Descent. You can target one of your banished fairy monsters, special summon it. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. When that monster is destroyed, destroy this card. So what you do is, you have one of these in the graveyard, one of these in your hand. You summon it by removing the one in the graveyard, and then you activate this to bring that one right to the field. So you have 2 for the price of 1, essentially. Really good thing to do. Of course, Solemn Warning is good enough to be at 1 per deck. They give it to you in this deck. You run it. And it says, whenever a monster would be summoned, or when a spell or trap card or a monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster or monsters, pay 2,000 life points, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, blow it up. So really good card there. So the last cards in this deck are actually 2 different spells, and then we have the cards that I'm not using. So Sanctum of Parshath. Come on, you. Okay. This card's name becomes the Sanctuary in the Sky while on the field or in the graveyard. Fairy monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. So, as you've seen, they're moderately statted. This actually pumps them up pretty nicely. It makes them tolerable as opposed to just being chump change. Fairy monsters on the field get 300 attack and defense. Set spells or traps cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects. So, Mystical Space Typhoon, the ban cards of Harpy's Feather Duster, Heavy Storm, Double Cyclone, anything like that, can't be activated while that card is on the field. At least to target set spells and traps. They can blow this up, which is like its one drawback, but aside from that, you're good to go. And then once per turn, you can target a total of 3 fairy monsters and or counter traps with different names in your graveyard and place them on top of your deck in any order. So you get this maybe turn 3 or 4, activate it, boom, you get a free counter trap right to the top of your deck. Probably going to be one of the ones that negates anything. So really strong card. And it counts as Sanctuary in the Sky, which is you need for some of the cards. And then I tech 1 Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen. Once per turn, you can special summon 1 fairy monster from your hand. You must control no monsters to activate and to resolve this effect. So basically, you get your big boss man for free. You can special summon one of your 4 stars and then normal summon another 4-star. So I could say Special Artemis, summon Meltiel, and then activate Guiding Ariadne, set a, what would I set? Maybe like a drastic drop-off, and then just end. And a whole bunch of things would happen as soon as they drew a card. Be glorious. So that's the deck right now. Now, there's some tweaking you can do. Maybe take out 1 Miraculous Descent. The Valhalla's kind of random. I mean, it's pretty consistent. It does come in handy for some situations, but I can see you moving that around. The one card I'm actually thinking about putting in is Ties of the Brethren, which I'm currently not using. It is a spell card that says pay 2,000 life points, then target 1 level 4 or lower monster you control. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters. Also, special summon 2 monsters from your deck with the same type, attribute, and level. So, light, probably 4-star fairies, which is like everything in the deck, beside the boss monsters. But with different, what's it say? Different names? Different names from each other. And that monster you cannot, with the same type, attribute, and level as that monster, but with different names from each other and that monster. So if I activate it on a Battle for Artemis, I can't grab 2 of anything. That's I would have to grab like an Honest and a Meltiel, or a Meltiel and a Valkyrie. But none of them could be equal to each other or the Battle for Artemis. So, really good card. I'm actually thinking about messing with that, but I haven't decided yet. Next one, it's pretty good. Celestial Transformation. Special summon a fairy monster from your hand. That monster's attack is halved. Also, it is destroyed during the end phase. So, a couple ways you can utilize this. Do you think something weird is going to happen? Like, do you want to just pop out another Battle for Artemis so you can negate something to get 2 draws? Another way you could utilize it would be to get a free 1,400 damage in. Let's say you have one of these. You can Celestial an extra one out, get 2 searches, and then one will explode. Or you could use one on an Honest just to get in a free 550 damage, and then use Honest Effect to pop it back into your hand so it won't get destroyed, which is pretty cool. There's a counter trap called Recall, I believe. I don't know if it's new or not, but it says when your opponent activates a monster effect, your opponent draws a card. Also negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. It's basically Dark Bribe for monster effects. Not bad, but you get a lot more bang for your buck with Dark Bribe. You get spells or traps with Dark Bribe. This just gets you monster effects. They might not use a monster effect. They might summon it and smack you with it. They might Synchro or Exceed and not use any effects. So, I mean, that's the only reason I'm not using that. Ultimate Providence. I'm also wondering about this. The only reason I'm not using this is because I only run 4 spells in my entire deck. Unless you count the Guiding Ariadnes, which might count towards this. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look into that. But it says, when a spell or trap card or monster effect's activated, discard the same type of card, monster, spell, or trap, negate the activation, and blow it up. Which, if the Guiding Ariadnes count towards my spell count, that would put me up to 7. Might be worth running. It is really good in the fact that it just... it'll stop anything just for a discard, which is still a minus. Like, you still lose an extra card from your opponent. But at the same time, you're not paying life points. There's no weird setup for it. You just need to have cards in your hand. But that's more cards that's not on the field, too. So you really got to think about using that one. Then we have Synthetic Seraphim. So Synthetic Seraphim is basically used with the... I got to reload. Synthetic Seraphim is basically used with the other low-level monsters that I'm not using. Now, those low-level monsters are actually pretty good, but it's not my playstyle. It's not the counter fairies that I'm used to. And in my opinion, they're a lot weaker because they're all these little... They're hand traps. Like, if you wanted to build a full monster counter deck, you could. Like, you could have 40 monsters that countered all spells and traps and still negated a bunch of stuff. But it'd be a lot weirder, and I don't know how much sustainability it would have. But it says, each time a counter trap card is activated, you immediately, after it resolves, special summon 1 Synthetic Seraphim token, which are included. And it's a Fairy Light, level 1, attack 300, and defense at 300. It's meant to be used with... Where's Ava? Ava, which says, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish up to 2 other light fairy monsters from your field and or graveyard, so you'd banish tokens. And the same number of level 2 or lower light fairy monsters with different names from your deck would be added to your hand. And so that would basically be Herald of Green Light, Herald of Orange Light, Herald of Purple Light, Guiding Light, Hanawada, and DD Sprite. You can only use the effective Ava once per turn. Now, all those cards, Herald of Green Light, you can discard it from your hand with any other fairy, and you negate a spell card that was just activated, and you destroy it. Orange Light is the exact same thing for monsters, but it's also a tuner. So if you have any synchros, you can use it to negate and to be a tuner, which is it's the best of them because of that. And then there is the Herald of Purple Light, which is the exact same thing, but for traps. Now, it will not be able to stop a counter trap, which is basically all they're going to be using on you, theoretically, to stop your stuff. So that's not as good, but Herald of Green Light's really awesome. Then we get Guiding Light. It says, when this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 level 1 light monster in your graveyard. So Ava, special summon that target. There's DD Sprite. You can special summon this card from your hand by banishing 1 face-up monster you control, probably a token. If you summon this way during your next standby phase, return the banished monster to the field. The token actually would not come back. But if you wanted to protect your Ava for some reason, you could do that. That way it would have a turn that your opponent really couldn't do anything to it. Then there's Hanawada. Quick effect. You can discard this card. You take no effect damage this turn. Yeah, it's not good. This is not a good card. Even if you were facing a burn deck, that's not a good card. Like, this is one of the worst cards in the game. Just because there's better stuff out there. It has slight deck synergy with what you're looking at, but they really forced that in there. I feel like Ava and Hanawada and DD Sprite were all forced to be in here. You can do cool stuff with DD Sprite, but definitely not in this format, not in this deck. It is not meant for this. The last, or I guess it would be the third spell I'm not using, is Actual Sanctuary in the Sky. It's a field spell. It says, if anyone slams into a fairy and you would take damage, you don't take damage. So now Sanctuary in the Sky it's got a lot of monsters that have effects that they gain more effects if you have Sanctuary in the Sky, which is why people like to use it. Well, actually, they don't like to use it. It's just that there's monsters out there that could get better effects, like Meltiel, like, where's it, Minerva. And there's other monsters down here. Aeronite Parsheth. So Neo Parsheth, I think. Yeah. So Neo Parsheth, the Sky Paladin, and Aeronite Parsheth, they came out before this. Aeronite was first in one of the first few sets. It is a 5-star, 1900 attack, 1400 defense, but it says if you attack a defense position monster, you inflict piercing battle damage. And if it inflicts any battle damage to your opponent, you get to draw a card. So that's really good. Now, Big Brother, Neo Parsheth, the Sky Paladin, again, not our boss monster, which is Arc Aeronite Parsheth. But Neo Parsheth says, special summon this card from your hand by tributing an Aeronite Parsheth. Or by normal ways. It's a 2300 7-star? Yeah. So you could Valhalla it to the field if you wanted. You could banish it and activate Miraculous Descent, or you could double tribute for it. But regardless, it says, if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, draw a card. So again, really good. But while the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, if your life points are higher than your opponent's, you gain the difference in your life points. Even if you find some way to get 1,000 life point difference, you just kicked him up to a 3,300, and if he hits anything, his attack will probably double from that, which is just sick. Like, he's a really good card. The only reason I'm not using him is because he's too high level. If I put him in here, I'd have to go 3 Valhalla. I'd have to use Hecatrice, whose sole effect is to search Valhalla out of your deck. And I just have to go aggro Swarm with giant boss monsters, which, again, might not be a bad idea. If you get 3 of these decks, you basically have 3 different deck builds you could do with this thing. So, pretty cool. If you guys want to see me try to do those deck builds and those variants, let me know. I'll do my best. I don't know how well they'll work, but again, we'll see what happens. Trying to keep it from logging back out. So we got through. Now we're at our last spell card that comes in the deck. Cards from the Sky. Banish 1 light fairy monster in your hand. And if you do, draw 2 cards. Seems good, except you cannot special summon or conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this card. So while you could chain draw like Allure of Darkness from our last deck, you can't special summon and you can't battle. So it's actually pretty bad. And seeing as how this deck doesn't have any turn stoppages like a Wabico, heck, or Negate Attack, which would be awesome in here. I really thought they would have given that to us, but apparently not. Yeah, I'm not using it. Nope. No hand, no way, not doing it. And then the final card is going to be Light of Judgement. If the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, discard 1 light monster to the graveyard. So there's 2 conditions right there. You gotta have Sanctuary in the Sky, you gotta have a light monster you can discard. And then you get one of the following effects. Look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card from their hand. Now it says discard, so again, if worst comes to worst, that will set off Dark World effects. But that's like the only thing you gotta worry about there. And then effect number 2 says send 1 card from your opponent, 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard. Now it says send, so it doesn't destroy, so it gets around things like Stardust Dragon. But again, for having 2 conditions, those effects aren't the greatest. Now that being said, it is really versatile, which is nice. And the only reason I'm not running it is because it is not a counter trap. There is no arrow there. If they had made that a counter trap, I would probably run it. Let's see, what else did I choose not to run? So right now I'm not running Harvest Angel of Wisdom. Really debated about this one because it is good. So its stats is 1800 attack and 1000 defense. Now, if you have one of these on the field, which hopefully you do, that puts it at 2100 attack, which is pretty darn good. When the card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, get any counter trap in your graveyard added to your hand. Really good effect. But it's got to be destroyed by battle. Most people are really afraid of running into fairies to begin with. If they know it's got an effect like that, they don't want to run into it. And even if they do want to run into it, they might be afraid of the Honest. So most of your monsters are probably going to be destroyed by spell or traps in this deck. Except for your boss monsters, which, I mean, they know they can just punch it in the face if they can get over it and you don't have an Honest. But that's why I'm not running Wisdom, because they might just ignore it and find other ways to dispose of it. Splendid Venus, good card. It's got 2800 attack and 2400 defense, well statted. It's a level 8 monster. So synergy with cards that we don't have in this deck, like Trade-In. Says all non-fairies lose 500 attack and defense. That effectively makes this thing a 3300 attack monster. As long as you're not facing a fairy, which most people are not running. Like, probably 95% of the players are not running fairies. Well, before this, so maybe 85% now, but regardless. The activation and effects of spell or trap cards activated on your field cannot be negated. So, I mean, even if you activated something and they tried to negate it, they wouldn't be able to. They can't solemn judgment your counter traps with that on the field. So, really cool. Moving on, we have Athena. If another fairy monster, it's a, what is it? 8-star, I don't know, that's 7-star. 2600 attack, 800 defense. If another fairy monster is summoned, inflict 600 points of damage to your opponent. So again, like if you wanted to do a different build, you could do an Athena burn deck with, what was it? Your synthetic seraphims. Every time you activate a counter trap, you get a synthetic seraphim. And every time you activate a counter trap, they take 600 burn damage with Athena there. So once per turn, you can send one face-up fairy monster you control to the graveyard, except Athena, then target a fairy monster in your graveyard, except Athena, and special summon it. So that's really good. Like if you have a layer that's just sitting there, you don't have a remove from play, you'd be like, hey, I had a Bountiful that died. I'm going to swap them now. Really helpful there. The trick is there's no real good way to summon that again except for Valhalla. It's either that or tributing it or banishing it and miraculous dissenting it. You got 3 options there. That's it. Then we have Tethys, Goddess of Light. Tethys I really wanted to put in this deck, but I found no room to put that in this deck. And by room, I don't just mean taking out cards and putting it in, but I mean high-level monster room. Because the boss monsters and the Christias are too good. I can't take those out. Which is, again, is the same reason I'm not running Neo Parshath. Good cards. If you wanted to mix with the ratios of those, I don't think anybody would blame you. Because Tethys is a 5-star, 2400 attack, 1800 defense, and it says when you draw a fairy monster, except during the damage step, you can reveal one of those monsters, one of those fairy monsters, and you draw a card. This card must be face up on the field to activate and to resolve this effect, which means if you activated it and showed the fairy, they could book a moon it, flip it face down, you wouldn't get a draw. It will never happen, basically. But 2400, and you can chain draw. Like, if it's my draw phase, I draw an Honest, show the Honest. Draw into a Bountiful, hey, show the Bountiful. Draw into a Christia, hey, show the Christia. I just drew 3 cards for free, because that's on the field. Really good card to have. And again, if you're running that, what is it? Let's see here. You can reveal. So you don't have to reveal it to draw a card. So you don't have to deck yourself out or anything. But something like that, really good if you want to run like the Herald variant of this deck. Let's see here. We did Hecatrice. We did these guys down here. And okay, so that's about it. You guys can pause the video at any time. I'm going to try to get this uploaded to YouTube, just like I did with my last one. But since I'm on here, we can actually try to play a game. Now I haven't tried to play a game on here before. I used to play all the time, but you know, I've been playing other things recently. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna save the deck. Okay, saved. We're good to go. And we are going to exit duel room. Unrated. So let's see. TCG only. Unrated. Links. Host duel. So we will wait. Okay, right here. Accept user. Oh, okay. Rock beat scissors, so they get to choose. All right, so looks like are they going first? Yeah, so they decided to go first. They are playing dinosaurs. Fossil dig. Okay, they get a level 6 or lower dinosaur type monster. I really like dinosaurs. Do I still remember? Oh, okay, I don't have to right click. That's right. Good stuff. So he got a 2000 attack, 0 defense card because, you know, giant monster wins. I don't know what that does. Equipped to a normal monster, it gains 500 attack. When the equipped monster destroys a monster by battle, special summon a phantasm spiral dragon from your hand, deck, or grave. Equip it with this card. Then inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. You can only use the effect of Phantasm. Okay. So, equip only to a normal monster. If the equipped monster attacks with defense, it does piercing. Dang it. Special summon 1 Phantasm Spiral Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Equip it with this card. Change 1 attack position monster your opponent controls to defense. Okay. So I will do that. Take 1 field spell from your deck and either activate it or add it to your hand. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a cool card. Okay, so cannot normal or special summon effect monsters the turn you activate this card. Once per turn, if you normal or special summon exactly 1 normal monster. Jeez. Okay, so he gets a whole bunch of stuff. I don't have anything to defend myself with because we're not running a good meta deck. We're running the starter deck. So what we're going to do, I don't think he can destroy stuff. I think he might be OTKing me next turn, though. Equipped with this, 1,000 damage. Okay. So, let's see. Yeah, this is going to be bad. You are gonna die. You're gonna go right there. Then I'm going to end turn and see what happens. We'll activate our drastic drop-off. Oh, is that the... oh, that's a Mirror Force. All right. Well, that's good to get rid of, I suppose. Oh, that's bad. He had another one. Tell him it's okay. I don't have anything for that. So let's see. Field spell. Reveal a counter trap in your hand. Pay 1,000 life points. Okay, so I will activate my rebirth. Then I will reveal. Special summon. And yeah, we're gonna get rid of that because I don't need that. Now it says you can special summon one Parshath monster from your deck or extra deck. So we will get our boss monster. So 2,500. I'm still slightly bigger, but I think he can turn me to defense, in which case he will be bigger by 200. I gotta shuffle. Shuffle. Okay. Oh, it auto shuffles, so that's pretty cool. Okay. I believe I'm taking the 1,000 for. So that was, yeah, because he should be 2,500. Oh, that's not good. That is quite bad. Oh, so this is that spiral deck. I've actually heard of the spirals, so now I believe I am dead. Because he's got 29, so 100, so 3,000, that's going to be 5,000. And I did not get my setup. And I actually think... where is it? Okay. We'll offer a rematch. We'll do one more, maybe. So I'm not going to decide anything because this is my deck. So we're going to go done siding. I want to go second. In this deck, you really want to go second because it's like you get that draw, and that draw is pretty important. So this deck, this is actually going to go a lot better because he's going to get his setup, and immediately I'll be gaining life points. I'll be destroying his stuff. Like, it'll be awesome. So okay, so he's going to start with Fossil Dig, which is great. A lot of decks run toolboxy stuff because, you know, it's essentially like running 6 copies of different cards in your deck as opposed to 3, so it's really, really good. Do that. Okay, so he's going to Unexpected Die. Summon, if you control no monster, special summon a level 4 or lower normal monster from the deck. Oh, that's really cool. That's a cool card to have for other things. I can dig that. Okay, so he's got a big 2,000 monster out. He's going to do that. Okay. So this is where things are going to get a little dicey here. How do I want to do this? I think I'm going to utilize the drop-off. That puts him up to 1,900. Or I could utilize that and pitch the layered. No, I'm gonna do the Meltiel and the drop-off for the simple reason that I'll actually be able to gain the life points and destroy something. So oh, I hope. Oh, wait, nope, wrong one. That one's got to go back. There it is. And we're gonna normal summon that. I don't know if he's got something, but gonna end my turn. And normal monster. Target one effect monster. Oh, wait, can't. Okay, so let me see. until the end of this turn, loses 1,000 attack, has the effects negated if it moves on the field. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, nope, that's wrong. Okay. Let's see. Cert. Oh, nope. Stop. LTL. Sage of the Sky. Rulings. So we're going to do this. And we'll post our source. And let's just let him know my guy's 1900. He can easily punch it in the face. Sadly, I do not have one of the honest that we run 3 of. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love the shark head. And Meltiel is gone. And big old dagger gives me an extra 2k. I will say this, the math on the normal decks is pretty darn easy. It's like 2,000. 2,000 here, 2,000 there. Okay, so what is this? I could do that. Hey, attack of 2,000. It's actually smarter for me to wait. So we'll do this. Oh, I can't use this. Oh, that's depressing. So actually now I think my best bet is probably to go battle phase. We'll set this. We'll go battle phase. And then we'll attack the shark monster. Now he's going to do something. Target effect monster your opponent controls till the end of this turn. It loses 1,000 attack. Alright, right. So that's fine. So I actually lose 1,000. And he's got me on this one. And to grave. That is the one main weakness of the deck. I was really hoping they'd give us some negate attacks because it's a really common card. And well, I guess I'm not dead yet. I thought I was further along. Let's see if I can top deck something. Oh, that's a big no. So I got a 1900. I cannot survive. Oh, wait. Nope. Cannot survive. Now, I have 3 cards. It says fairy monsters on the field cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects. Once per turn, target a total of 3 fairy monsters and or counter traps. Put them on top of your deck. So it doesn't get me a draw. Because it doesn't get me the draw, it actually loses me the game. If I could draw into my drastic drop-off, I'd be a lot better, but he's got me. I wear it because, you know, I'm a card shark. It's thematic. Give me some credit. Yep, he's gone. All right. Still, I think we got a lot of good stuff today. I will be attempting to post this on YouTube, and I will talk to you all later.